Hello, all glory to Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So, bring forth the blind that have eyes and the deaf that have ears. So, Trump is doing a tour of India at the moment. I was going to do a video about some of the Indian religions, Hinduism and Buddhism. I looked into it a bit, and then I thought, well, this is the same sort of thing as I've already been talking about with all of the other religions. But then because Trump went to India, I thought, well, there's a few things to connect, and why not go over it? So I'm going to talk a bit about Hinduism and Buddhism, not in great detail. I'll just try to get through it quickly, but I'll give you some links to some things. And what we're looking for, as I've described in the past, been looking at other religions. We're not trying to understand the other religions. We're just trying to see the links between what they think is the truth and what we know is the truth, which is the Word of God. And also basically find in this case there's a few things with Trump which I found interesting, a few connections. So Namaste Trump, this thing that Trump's doing, this event. There's an article here from Namaste Trump to Taj Mahal visit. U.S. Pres has a jammed-packed schedule. Accompanied by First Lady Melania Trump, the U.S. President will begin the nearly 36-hour trip with a visit to Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad around 12:15. On Monday, it will be followed by Trump's participation at the Namaste Trump event around 1:05. Okay, so there's some events talked about here in India. Trump's been to India and he's been well received by the Indian Prime Minister and by the Indian people. He's going on this tour, so I thought I'd just talk about some of these things that he's doing and then some other things. And then we'll get into Hinduism and stuff. So Taj Mahal, this is one thing I wanted to say on it. Taj Mahal, it's obviously a wonder of the world, which Trump is visiting. It's a mausoleum, as I understand it. But in this bit latter days, Abdul Hamid Lahorji, in his book Badshahnaman, refers to Taj Mahal as something meaning illumined or illustrious tomb. So I thought that was interesting. Interesting that it's called the illumined or illustrious tomb. And Trump's visiting that. There's plenty of reasons why you'd visit that. I'm not saying that there's anything necessarily occult to do with that, but I just thought it was interesting. The illumined or illustrious tomb. So an ashram is going to the Sabarmati Ashram. What is that? Well, firstly, what is an ashram? Traditionally, an ashram is a spiritual hermitage or monastery in Indian religions. So it's going to an Indian religious site. Sabarmati Ashram, known as Gandhi Ashram, Harjit Ashram, is located in Sabarmati suburb of Ahmedabad, Gujarat, adjoining the Ashram Road on the banks of the river Sabarmati, 4 miles from the town hall. This is one of the many residences of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived at Sabarmati and Sevagram when he was not travelling across India and was not in prison. He stayed at Sabarmati and Wada for a total of 12 years, along with his wife, Kasturba Gandhi, and followers, including Vinoba Bhave. The Bhagavad Gita was recited here daily as part of the ashram schedule. History in the second paragraph there. Mohandas Gandhi said, "It is the right place for our activities to carry on the search for truth and develop fearlessness. For on one side, the iron bolts of foreigners, on the other side, the thunderbolts of Mother Nature." So that's interesting, talking about thunderbolts. And that sort of has some satanic connotations there, but once again, we're just looking for links here, and I'll get into some more interesting stuff as we go on. Sabarmati Ashram receives about 700,000 visitors a year. So, just a religious site that Trump is going to, associated with Gandhi. I thought the quote was interesting, and one of the things I wanted to point out, and a few other things as we go through, is that these religions, the Hinduism and Buddhism, and these religious sites, they get a lot of visitors. These are big religions that we're talking about here. So this ashram, 700,000 visitors a year. It's a lot. Namaste. What does Namaste mean? Namaste, sometimes spoken as Nam Sakar or Nam Shakaram, is a customary Hindu greeting. In Hinduism, it means I bow to the divine in you. Namaste may also be spoken without the gesture, or the gesture may be performed wordlessly. So Trump's doing this visit to this Taj Mahal, which is a tomb, the illumined tomb. He's going to an ashram, which is a religious site, and he's doing this Namaste Trump event. And Namaste is I bow to the divine in you. And there's a lot of people in India bowing to the divine in Trump. And I've shown in the past, Trump celebrated Diwali. US President Trump on Sunday celebrated Diwali, the Festival of Lights, at White House in Washington. Trump also tweeted a video of him lighting diyas and said, "As Diwali commences, Milani and I wish those observing the Festival of Lights a blessed and happy celebration. Happy Diwali." And Diwali is a Hindu festival of lights, usually lasting 5 days and celebrated during the Hindu lunisolar month Kartika. And one of the most popular festivals in Hinduism, Diwali symbolizes the spiritual victory of light over darkness, good over evil, and knowledge over ignorance. The festival is widely associated with Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity, but regional traditions connect it to Sita and Rama, Vishnu, Krishna, Durga, Kali, Dhanvantari, and Vishvakarman. So interesting. So, and then going on, other things, and I'll tie this all together as we go on. Let's lay some things out. In India, one man literally plays to an uncanny sculpture he made of Donald Trump, his god, which I thought was interesting. It remains to be seen if the president, who visits the country this month, will meet his biggest fan. As US President Donald Trump prepares for his visit to India, one man is ready to welcome him with open arms. Busha Krishna, age 33, literally worships Trump, going so far as to erect a 6-foot statue of the reality TV star turned politician outside his home for devotional purposes. It took almost a month and 15 labourers to build this statue, Krishna told Asian News International. Trump is like a god to me. That is the reason I had his statue built. The statue depicts Trump in a blue suit with a red tie. As common in depictions of Hindu gods in art, Trump has pink skin, accentuated by applications of bright red sindoor powder on the statue's forehead, Hindu religious mark known as a tilak. Krishna, who lives in the village of Kon in Telangana near Hyderabad, makes offerings at the custom shrine every day, in a bizarre take on Hinduism's natural pulla prayer ritual. He began the practice 4 years ago after Trump allegedly appeared to him in a dream. How weird. So we've got that going on. And then, of course, CERN have a statue of Shiva outside the front. 18th of June, CERN, this is in 2004, I think, unveiled an unusual landmark, 2 meters tall statue of Indian deity Lord Shiva. Statue is a gift from India, celebrating CERN's long association with India, which started in the 60s and continues strongly today. In Hindu religion, this form of the dancing Lord Shiva is known as a Nataraj and symbolizes Shakti or life force. As a plaque alongside the statue explains, the belief is that Lord Shiva danced the universe into existence, motivates it, and will eventually extinguish it. Carl Sagan drew the metaphor between the cosmic dance of Nataraj and the modern study of the cosmic dance of subatomic particles. The CERN obviously doing, I don't know how much you know about CERN, but they're doing some dodgy things. There was a satanic ritual there when they opened the tunnel, the Goddard Tunnel, I think it is. And you can watch that on YouTube. It's quite bizarre satanic ritual. And they've got the 666 in their logo. And just weird place. And they've got the Shiva statue, which is bizarre. And talked about Carl Sagan in that article, and there's a bit here, Carl Sagan, on how Hindu culture is the basis for modern cosmic theories, and I'll put a link to that video. I have to say I find Carl Sagan incredibly boring, but anyway, there's that link there. So the point of all this is that there's all these things going on, these connections between, and I haven't talked about the Hindu religions and the Eastern religions that much, and there's a few more things as we go on, but I just thought there were some interesting connections showing that, I don't think Trump is a Hindu. I don't think Trump is any religion. I mean, I don't know, but he has a picture of Apollo on his wall. So I think he's I think he's a Satan worshipper, you might say, but I don't think he's of any particular religion, and we'll get into that a bit more as we go down too. But so talking about these religions in the East, just to show a bit what's going on there. I'll talk a little bit about Buddhism, and then more about Hinduism. So Buddhism is the fourth largest religion with over 520 million followers, over 7% of the global population known as Buddhists. Buddhism encompasses a variety of traditions, beliefs, and spiritual practices, largely based on original teachings attributed to the Buddha as a resulting interpreted philosophies. It originated in ancient India as a Shramana tradition sometime between the 6th and 4th centuries BCE, spreading throughout much of Asia. And so, of course, in Buddhism, we've got meditation as a major part in Buddhism, and I've linked before this Stephen Bankard's video on meditation, how dangerous it is, and I've talked about how one of the ways that the people who worship demons and contact demons and fallen angels, they do it through meditation a lot of the time and channeling. So it's just interesting that practice is a prominent thing in Buddhism. But just noting that it's a very large, world's fourth largest religion. So just a little bit on that. And Hinduism. Hinduism is the world's third largest religion. It's an Indian religion and dharma, or way of life, widely practiced in the Indian subcontinent and parts of Southeast Asia. Hinduism has been called the oldest religion in the world, and some practitioners and scholars refer to it as Sanatana Dharma, the eternal tradition or the eternal way beyond human history. Scholars regard Hinduism as a fusion or synthesis of various Indian cultures and traditions, with diverse roots and no founder. This Hindu synthesis started to develop between 500 BC and 300 CE, after the end of the Vedic period, and flourished in the medieval period with the decline of Buddhism in India. Practices. Some devout Hindus perform daily rituals, such as worshipping at dawn after bathing, usually at a family shrine, and typically includes lighting a lamp and offering foodstuffs before the images of deities. Starting from religious scripts, singing devotional hymns, yoga, meditation, chanting mantras, and others. So obviously that bit there about offering foodstuffs before the images of deities, obviously that's very bad. You're not supposed to be offering, you're supposed to have idols, you're supposed to be worshipping God, worshipping the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and through his son Jesus Christ. But the devotional hymns, yoga, meditation, chanting mantras, you can see how this stuff's entered into the West, and there's a lot of that stuff going on here, yoga and meditation being the biggest, and also the chanting mantras and things, but that's... Anyway, so some of the gods. So I thought this was something interesting, I'm going to talk about Krishna and Vishnu. And, just interesting connections. I'll keep going. So Krishna is a major deity in Hinduism. He is worshipped as the 8th avatar of the god Vishnu, and also as the supreme god in his own right. He is the god of compassion, tenderness, and love in Hinduism, and is one of the most popular and widely revered among Indian divinities. Names and epithets. The name Krishna originates from the Sanskrit word Krishna, which is primarily an adjective meaning black, dark, or dark blue. The waning moon is called Krishna Pakash, relating to the adjective meaning darkening. The name is also interpreted sometimes as all attractive. So I'm going to read a bit from Revelation 17 now, and I emphasize that he's the 8th avatar of the god Vishnu. So I'm going to read a bit of Revelation 17, and as we go through the rest of talking about Vishnu, just recognize the connections, the similarities here between what's written in the Word of God and the beliefs in Hinduism. So here is the mind that hath wisdom. So this is Revelation 17, after it's talking about the beast and the mystery Babylon, the whore of Babylon, riding on the beast. Here is the mind that hath wisdom. The 7 heads of the beast are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth, and there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. So we've got these 8 kings here. 7 heads of this serpent, but then there's this 8th head, which is of the 7. You might say that the 8th manifestation. So I thought that was interesting. Connection with Krishna there. I don't know if there's a connection to be made, but it's interesting to know. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords, and King of kings. And they that are with him are called, and chosen, and faithful. And he said unto them, The waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So, 10 horns on the beast. So that's interesting. I'm going to talk about Vishnu now, and there's a picture on the right there of Vishnu and his 10 avatars. So Vishnu is one of the principal deities of Hinduism, the preserver in the Hindu triad, Trimurti. So the triad here, of course, in the Catholics have we have the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost, but the Catholics have their sort of pagan trinity as well, with the sort of the Father, Mother, and the Son, you might say, with their, I guess it would be Father God and Mother Mary and Jesus, or they've got their Trinity, which I don't understand at all. But anyway, it's just the Trinity. So I'm going to talk about that as we go down. There's the Trinity in Hinduism as well. The preserver in the Hindu triad, Vishnu is revered as the supreme being in Vaishnavism, and is identical to the metaphysical concept of Brahman, Atman, the self or unchanging ultimate reality, and is notable for adopting various incarnations, avatars such as Rama and Krishna, to preserve and protect dharmic principles whenever the world is threatened with evil, chaos, and destructive forces. So it's this belief in Hinduism that the God, the big God, is going to come back, at a time of evil and chaos and destructive forces. Nomenclature. They say, there's that picture there, Vishnu and his 10 avatars. It's just interesting. Then he's got 10 avatars, and so one wonders if that something like that, the Indian version of what's going to happen is, because I think all religions are Satan worship, basically. You're supposed to follow the word of God. So the Indian version of the satanic understanding is that this beast system, this 10-headed or 10-horned thing, these 10 kings, maybe it's the 10 avatars of Vishnu, who knows. So nomenclature, the 108 names of Vishnu. The 10th part of the Padma Purana, Danta, lists 108 names of Vishnu. These include the 10 primary avatars and descriptions of the qualities, attributes, or aspects of God. So I've got this God who has a lot of different names. It's kind of like, I've showed how Satan, all these pagan religions, it's all basically Satan worship, but all these different names for gods. So appearance. In Hindu mythology, Vishnu is depicted as having a dark blue or black complexion, earrings the shape of sharks, garland of flowers hanging from his neck, honeybees flying around it to symbolize the verses of the Yajur Veda. And you might notice honeybees are used as symbols in the occult. I haven't talked about it much. It's just something I've noticed. That there seems to be a bee symbology, so it's worth noting. The Srivatsa mark on his chest, in the form of a curl of hair. The cult's Kaustuba gem on his chest. It's hard to read these words, and I'm going to talk about that as we go on as well. Forearms. It's forearm god. Upper left holding a conch. Lower left holding a lotus flower. Upper right holding a discus, and lower right holding a mace. And yellow coloured silk trousers. The bow of Vishnu is known. He's got a bow. It's known as Sharanga. I've talked about that in the past, how the enemies of God seem to be depicted as hunters, and some of those older gods like Asher, and I think Nimrod as well, they're often depicted with a bow. And you've got in the Bible, it talks about in Ephesians 6, it talks about putting on the armor of God to protect yourself against the fiery darts of the devil. Sword known as Danada. Traditional depiction of Vishnu is of him reclining on the coils of the serpent, Shesha, accompanied by his consort Lakshmi as he dreams the universe into reality. This Vishnu is reclining on the serpent Shesha. Shesha, also known as Sheshanaga or something else, is the Nagaraya or king of all Nagas. And Nagas are snake beings. I'll talk about it down below. And one of the primal beings of creation. In the Puranas, Shesha is said to hold all the planets of the universe in his bonds and to constantly sing the glories of the god Vishnu from all his mouths. So the planets, of course, we know the planets as wandering stars, and they're the ones that disobeyed God, you might say. They didn't keep their place. So it's this being, this big snake, the king of the snakes, who holds the wandering stars together. So that's interesting. Form Shesha is generally depicted with a massive form that floats coiled in space, maybe the great red dragon, or the ocean of bliss, to form the bed on which Vishnu lies. Sometimes he is shown as five-headed or seven-headed, but more commonly as a many thousand-headed serpent, sometimes with each head wearing an ornate crown. His name means that which remains from the Sanskrit root, because when the world is destroyed at the end of the Kalpa, Shesha remains as he is. So we'll look at some of the pictures there. See, I mean, obviously not always a seven-headed snake, but we do have the seven-headed beast, the great red dragon, and the crowns on his head. So it's just interesting to note that connection as well. Yes. There appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. So this Shesha, this big snake, it's a Naga. In Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, Nagas are semi-divine deities or semi-divine race of half-human, half-serpent beings that reside in the netherworld and can occasionally take human form. They are principally depicted in 3 forms: wholly human with snakes on the heads and necks, common serpents, or as half-human, half-snake beings. You can look at some more pictures there. So it's just interesting. Some people talk about the Nephilim, as in the half angel, half human hybrids. The children of the devil, basically. Jesus called the Pharisees den of vipers, den of serpents, and that type of thing. So just interesting. So back to Vishnu, the Trimurti, particularly in Vaishnavism, the so-called Hindu triad, or Great Trinity, or Trimurti, represents the 3 fundamental forces, gunas, 3 fundamental forces. Remember the word forces? Through which the universe is created, maintained, and destroyed in cyclic succession. Each of these forces is represented by a Hindu deity. The Brahma represents Rajas, passion and creation. Vishnu represents goodness and preservation, and Shiva represents darkness and destruction. So, darkness and destruction, that's the statue outside of CERN. It's interesting. All have the same meaning of 3 in 1, different forms or manifestations of one person, the Supreme Being. So it's the Hindu Trinity. They've got a Trinity as well. Avatars. The concept of the avatar, or incarnation, within Hinduism is most often associated with Vishnu, the preserver or sustainer aspect of God within the Hindu Trimurti. The avatars of Vishnu descend to empower the good and to destroy the evil, thereby restoring Dharma and relieving the burden of the earth. An oft-quoted passage from the Bhagavad Gita describes the typical role of an avatar of Vishnu. Wherever righteousness wanes and unrighteousness increases, I send myself forth from the protection of the good and for the destruction of evil, and for the establishment of righteousness. I come into being age after age. So there's this satanic being, which comes and manifests on the earth every so often. So I guess that would be the Hindu version of the Antichrist. Hindu explanation for the Antichrist. So, Vedic literature. In particular, the Puranas, meaning ancient, similar to encyclopedias, and Itihasa, meaning chronicle, history, and legend, narrate numerous avatars of Vishnu. The most well-known of these avatars are Krishna, most notably in the Vishnu, and Rama. Krishna, in particular, is venerated in Vaishnavism as the ultimate primeval, transcendental source of all existence, including all other demigods, and gods such as Vishnu. So, Dashavatara. The Dashavatara is a list of the so-called Vibhavas, or 10 primary avatars of Vishnu. The Angli Purana, all those things provide matching lists. Some of these words are very difficult to say. The same Hibvabas are also found in the Garuda Purana, commentary, Anyway, so the fish, the tortoise, the boar, the man-lion, the dwarf, Pura, Surama, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, and also Kalki. These 10 names should always be meditated upon by the wise. Those who recite them near the diseased are called relatives. Anyway, so there's these 10 forms, basically. I thought that last one, Kalki, was interesting. Kalki, also known as Kalkin or Kaki, is the 10th avatar of the Hindu god Vishnu to end the Kali Yuga. The Kali Yuga, in Hinduism, there's this idea that there's these cycles, these phases, these eras, epochs, or whatever, and the Kali Yuga would be the age that we are now in, which is an age of darkness and decay, before the rejuvenation, I guess. So this Kalki, this final avatar of Vishnu, is the one that ends the Kali Yuga. So this might be called the Antichrist, as well. It's all very complicated. But anyway, just looking for connections with things. So, 10th avatar of the Hindu god Vishnu to end the Kali Yuga, one of the 4 periods in the endless cycle of existence in Vaishnavism cosmology. He is described in the Puranas as the avatar who rejuvenates existence by ending the darkest and destructive period to remove adharma, which I guess is evil, and ushering in the Satya Yuga, or riding a white horse with a fiery sword. The description and details of Kalki are inconsistent among the Puranic texts. He is, for example, only an invisible force. In the Puranic text, he is, for example, only an invisible force destroying evil and chaos in some texts, while an actual person who kills those who persecute others, and portrayed as someone leading an army of Brahmin warriors in some. His mythology has been compared to the concepts of Messiah, Apocalypse, Frashokereti, and Maitreya in other religions. So riding a white horse, sometimes leading armies. In Revelation 6, and I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as if it were the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. It's interesting. Kalki coming on a white horse. First seal, a white horse. So yeah, the Indian Kali Yuga, it's the last of the 4 stages of the world, goes through as part of the cycle of yugas. So anyway, it's just the cycle. They believe in a cycle. So, I'll keep reading. So Daniel 11. So I'm going to read a bit of a longer bit here because I think some of this is interesting, but the bit I wanted to focus on is I'll talk about it after I've read it. An arm shall stand on his part. So this is talking about the Antichrist. An arm shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of his strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate, and such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, and by captivity, and by spoil many days. And when they shall fall, they shall be holpen with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries. And some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them, and to purge, and to make them white, even till the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself, and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvellous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire for women, which as I understand it is female gods, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. So if Trump is the Antichrist, and I don't know that he is, but if he is, then that's what I'm saying there. I don't think that Trump is a Hindu. He might be paying homage to these Hindu gods, just as he's paid homage to the true God by pretending that he's a Christian, and also to the Jews, and to whoever. I don't think he actually cares. I don't think he's actually religious in that sense. So he shall magnify himself above all, but in his estate he shall honour the God of forces. And a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honour with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. So I just think it's interesting how that God of forces there, that as I understand it, that's a God of like military strength or something like that. But it's just interesting to note that I've also thought that perhaps that word maybe means, in English, it could also mean the God of physical forces, or forces of the universe, or the scientific forces, or something like that, or the forces, the Trinity of the Hindu gods, the forces of the universe. Yeah. Anyway, 1 second. Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting, and talking about a God who his fathers knew not. Well, his fathers would have been, I guess, I think he's from Germany or something. But anyway, the Hindu gods are not gods that we recognize in the West. Like they're weird. They're not the God of our fathers, not the God of Trump's fathers. So I just thought that was interesting. So literature, back to Vishnu. Vedas. In the Vedic hymns, Vishnu is invoked alongside other deities, especially Indra, whom he helps in killing the symbol of evil named Vritra. His distinguishing characteristic in Vedas is his association with light. Vishnu is Surya, or sun god. So association with light and the sun god. Now it's just that seen alongside other deities, especially Indra. And Indra is a god that I've seen people using to sort of an AI god, and I didn't prepare that, but I've just seen people using Indra, sort of invoking Indra as some form of AI. I just thought it was interesting. But Indra is a ancient Vedic deity, a deity in Hinduism, a guardian deity in Buddhism, and the king of the highest heaven in Jainism. His mythologies and powers are similar, though not identical, to other Indo-European deities such as Jupiter, Perun, Pecunus, Tyrannus, Zeus, and Thor. So then there's one last bit here on the swastika. So of course the swastika is I'll read about this, then I'll talk about it. So the swastika. So this article here, the Buddhist swastika and Hitler's cross. The swastika has been used for over 3,000 years by billions of people in many cultures and religions, including Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism, as an auspicious symbol of the sun and good fortune. However, beginning with its hijacking and misappropriation by Nazi Germany, it has also been used and continues to be used as a symbol of hate in the Western world. Hitler's device is in fact a hooked cross. Reverend Nakagagi's book explains how and why these symbols got confused and offers a path to peace, understanding, and reconciliation. And just another article here. Buddhist monk raises awareness about the swastika's original meaning. When Reverend Kenichi Nagasaki moved to Seattle, he knew of swastikas only as manji, a Chinese character means good fortune in Japanese. When he used the swastika in a sacred ceremony, he was chastised by a temple member who told him he couldn't do that in this country. It was then that Nakagaki learned the swastika was universally associated with hate. After I got that lesson, I decided not to use that particular symbol for the past 25 years. Nakagaki, now based in New York City, recently told Japan Times. But this narrow and limited perspective is unacceptable for those of us who value and have grown up with the swastika in our religions and culture. Now, Nakagaki is trying to raise awareness about the swastika's peaceful Sanskrit origins. His new book, The Buddhist Swastika and Hitler's Cross, is Nakagaki's way of ending the decades-long prohibition against the symbol. He details the swastika's eastern roots and traces its use in Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All of these predate the Nazis' appropriation of the symbol by centuries. So yes, of course, there are a lot of temples and things which use the swastika, and the swastika has been used for a long time, and there's this movement to redefine what the swastika means, because Hitler ruined the swastika, apparently, turned it into a symbol of hate, whereas in reality, and I talk about this in UFO Religions and Antichrist Aliens at 44 minutes and 32 seconds approximately. If you go to there and start listening, I talk about it there. I've talked about it before in some other videos as well. It's this move to reappropriate these occult symbols like the swastika and the pyramid and the Eye of Providence, these evil symbols, these Satan worshipping. Like the swastika is a symbol of the sun god or of Satan, basically. It's a satanic symbol. The swastika is a satanic symbol, but of course in the Hindu religions and the Buddhist religions and things, that it's a good symbol because they worship Satan essentially, and they don't, obviously the average person I don't think recognizes that that's what they're doing, but they're satanic religions. And so these symbols like the swastika, it's a satanic symbol, but it's being, now there's this move on to redefine it as a good symbol. So you might see people walking around with swastikas on their heads thinking it's a good thing. It's not a good thing, it's a satanic symbol. And as Q has said, symbolism will be their downfall. I think Q is talking about the average person, because Q is satanic. Yeah, so there's just some things about the Indian religions. So I don't know what form exactly the Antichrist and the Antichrist religion is going to manifest, but I just thought there was some interesting things there. And this bit in Deuteronomy 28, because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee. And the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Well, I can't understand the Indian stuff. A nation of fierce countenance, which will not regard the person of the old, nor show favour to the young. And I'm not saying that India is the ones that the Antichrist is going to come from, and they're going to attack Jerusalem or anything like that. I'm just saying, I mean, it's a possibility, but I'm just saying there's some interesting things going on here. It's worth being aware of these connections so that when stuff happens, you're not surprised by it. Anyway, what should we be doing? Well, we should be spreading the gospel, and that's what we should be worried about, and not worrying too much about these things, being aware that there's things going on. And I just thought it was interesting, some of the connections between Donald Trump and these Indian religions, and it's been very well received in India, and there's some pictures that I've put on the screen from the research board, the 8 QAnon research boards, and these pictures of Trump in like the sort of the Hindu god sort of poses, and Pepe's getting in on it and whatever. Just interesting stuff. Anyway, I hope this video has been insightful to you. May Jesus bless you and keep you. Amen.